Welcome back to Final Score Friday. Sponsored by Bojangles, Loyalty Automotive, and Richmond Pediatric Dentistry and Orthodontics.
Welcome back to the fifth quarter. We welcome everybody who is watching on our OTT and streaming live on YouTube and our other various platforms. Cheerleaders from Douglas Freeman joining us for Week 12 as we get the first week of the playoffs out of the way. And we're going to start with their game against Douglas Freeman. These two have a long history, one of the oldest rivalries in the area. They went for the 65th time on Friday night, but the first time ever in the playoffs, and it was worth it. If they're going to play like this, they should be in the playoffs every year.
Now, mind you, they scored 40 points combined in the first meeting. They surpassed that before halftime.
Yeah.
87 points between the two teams. At one point, Douglas Freeman was down 21-13, and then they got on a little run. They got on a 23-0 run between the end of the second quarter, third quarter. This went back and forth in the second half. But a Jaden Reese 89-yard touchdown with about 2.5 minutes to go sealed the deal for Douglas Freeman. And with all the chaos in Region 5C, Douglas Freeman, as the 6th seed, will host William Fleming, who knocked off the number 1 seed Patrick Henry Roanoke. They get a home game next Friday night for a trip to the regional final in 5C.
Yeah, and it's a big win for Douglas Freeman considering all the injuries they had this year, losing one of their best players in the very first game of the season and fighting through all that. And they had not done all that well against Hermitage. Lost 13 of the last 15, I believe, or something like that. So big win for George Bland and the Mavericks, and now they get to stay home next week. They didn't travel all that far Friday night, but now they get to stay home again.
Next week.
Another huge win for another Henrico school. Mills Godwin had to go on the road up to Louisa. If you have ever seen a game up at the Lions Den in Louisa, you know what kind of atmosphere they have up there. And Mills Godwin, who has been kind of maligned this year, they've lost a couple of games people didn't think they should lose. They go up there tonight and not only take Louisa's best shot, but counter it. And eventually, I believe they scored 12 points or something. They scored twice in the final 2.5 minutes, the last 12, 15 points of the game, to come from behind and win on the road. In Earl Kinney's first season with the Eagles, he wanted to return the pride to Godwin. You keep doing this, they're going to do it very easily.
Well, I think you got to go back to the beginning of the season. They had some close games early on that they had to come back and win. I think a game against Hanover, they came back late and won that game. I want to say it was a game against Patrick Henry at the beginning of the year. They had to have a stop to win that game by like a point. So they have been used to games like this, but to go on the road and do that to Louisa, a team that's been perennial going into the playoffs, going deep in the playoffs.
First season in 5C,
and 5C as well. That says a lot about what Kenny has done for Mills Godwin, and that shows Louisa 5C ain't so ain't a weakling. Ain't a weakling region at all, and all of the chaos. 1 and 2 both eliminated in the first weekend. So that's telling you the depth in Region 5C this year.
Now, we want to talk about history. We've talked about history a lot this year, and for the Richmond Public Schools, we think that Friday night was the first time something has happened in a long, long time. We're going to start with the Armstrong Wildcats, who lost in overtime last year. They hosted just their second time hosting a playoff game in school history, a history that goes back, well, quite a ways in terms of the building, which used to be old John F. Kennedy, and there have been various incarnations of merged schools and things like that. But Armstrong got ahead early on William Monroe tonight and won 52-14 to advance. That's their first playoff win in school history, which we believe goes back somewhere in the mid-'80s when all the schools were really set out on their own, and they kind of divvied up the complexes, as they were used to called. But Anthony Allen had a touchdown run, a couple of touchdown passes. He has had a fantastic senior season after being honorable mention All-Metro last year. And congratulations to Jeremy Pruitt and the Wildcats, who he told us back in August they went from 2 wins to 4 wins. He wanted to double it and get to 8 this year. He's got 8 wins.
And got that first playoff win. And somewhere, Lou Anderson is smiling down at his son.
Coach Lou Anderson, yes, the AD over at Armstrong. Congratulations to him as well.
Won the playoff game at Rogers Stadium where Coach Lou Anderson had much success with the trophy. So kudos.
Now, speaking of the city schools, Thomas Jefferson, who had a historic season, their first undefeated season in school history, they played last night at home over at Hubby Field against GOOCHLAND. First time these two teams, or excuse me, the first time in 5 years they had met. Right. GOOCHLAND had won every meeting before that, but this is a different TJ team. No question. And hats off to Eric Harris, who took this job halfway through the summer under less than ideal circumstances, but he had been with the program, and he fortified the culture around that program the way they've done for the last couple of years. A 20-0 win last night. We believe this is the first time in at least, probably going back almost 40 years, that 3 city schools all won playoff games on the same night.
They did them in crazy ways. Especially with Huguenot's win over Powhatan.
And Huguenot is advanced as well. For all of your Week 12 scores and highlights, just go to the scoreboard page at WTVR.com. Big thanks to the cheerleaders from Douglas Freeman for joining us. For Sean, I'm Lane. We will see you next Friday for the season finale of Final Score Friday. So long, everyone.